Hello, hello. It is time for another Monday Caregiver check-in. It is February 9th. Is that right? February
No.
4th. Woo, thank goodness. It's February 4th, and we are here for another one. I'm Darren Fink, and my phone volume is on, and it's sharing the Caregiver check-in also. Um, I'm Darren Fink, and
I'm Margie Fink.
we're going to spend the next probably 45 minutes, 30 minutes with you to talk about whatever issues or concerns that you have. This is a time that we take every Monday to, well, I'll let you tell it about it. How about that while I invite people?
All right. So this is a time that we can get together online and just talk about tips, questions, suggestions, ask questions of each other. So oftentimes we have caregivers on here of foster and adoptive children. We'll also have people who work in the field and volunteers or people who are interested. Sometimes folks will get on here who are thinking about fostering or adopting. Other times there are volunteers who are just looking at what we're talking about to see what ways they can help foster and adoptive families. So this is not a time to replace therapy or necessarily what legal or medical advice or anything like that. It's just a time to come together, ask questions, and share a bit with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead and one thing that I'm going to say a couple times probably, because while people are still trying to get on here, this is probably the fluff time right now while people are trying to get on here, is can you go ahead and can you share this with your friends so that we can get a better discussion in here? Because the more people that see this, the more conversation we're going to be able to get into. I'm trying to do, they have a new feature here on Facebook where we can ask a question. Let me see if I can find that. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and put this up for fun. Margie doesn't like it, but I'm going to put it anyways. Okay. We're going to put that up there. Okay. As you guys are joining on here, we have this poll on here that, so many times we have different children in our homes and we have different personalities. And this is just a fun question. But would you rather have, oh, it didn't put everything on there. Would you rather have a child in your home that talks to you about everything? Well, here, let me change. Would you rather have a child in your home who wants to talk to you about everything, but as soon as you leave the house, they have a meltdown? Or would you rather have a child in your home who refuses to talk to you about anything important, but you can travel anywhere you want to, and they're just a dream to travel with? So, yeah, that's the interesting thing right there, I think. Okay, so let us know what you think, and you can click on that, and we'll see if that works. I'm not sure if I did that. This is the first time we've ever used that, so I'm not sure if it's going to actually work out too well there. But the voting thing is on there, so we'll see what happens. I actually tried to do it, and it said my voting failed. So we'll see if that works or not. But glad you guys could join us. If you can, go ahead and share, like I said. If you can share that you are watching this, that helps us to get a lot more people in here and going. I have no idea where Margie went. She just jumped up and left. We are going to be talking a little bit here as soon as everyone kind of gets in here and settled. We're going to be talking about, oh, let me see. Oh, sorry guys. I'm getting used to this poll thing. Hey, Janice, how are you doing? Yeah, mine failed too. I don't know why it's failing. Let's see here. I don't know. So the poll question is, would you rather have a child in your home who A, talks to you about everything but has a meltdown when you leave the house, or refuses to talk to you about anything important but loves to travel and is well behaved while traveling? That's interesting that some of you guys it's failing and some people it's working. It might have a difference. Maybe they don't allow for the phone app to work. I don't know. Hey, Amy, glad that you could join us. First time on here. Hello from Ohio. Janice, glad that you're on here. If you guys would go ahead and share as people are getting in here, if you would share that you are watching to your social media accounts so that more people will get in here. We're going to be talking about, someone actually asked if we would talk about the parentification of children. And what we mean by that is children that are coming into your home that they've had to act as the parent to younger siblings for so long that when they're coming into your home as foster or adoptive children, they're having a struggle with letting that parenting go. Or the younger children are looking up to them as the parents and making it difficult for the adults, safe adults in their life to handle things. Good. Glad to have you back, Janice. Yeah, we're glad it's here too. It's so weird. Like Margie was just like right here, and then all of a sudden she jumped up and she was gone. So I have my cohort in crime here too. Like I just don't know where she went, but she left, and she's gone. So good deal. Glad to have Amy on here. I think I saw a few more faces come in here. How is the weather going for everyone right now? Jennifer is the first time on here from Central Florida. Good to have you on here. Okay. Glad to have everyone on here. How is the weather where everyone's watching from? It is great. We're in Orlando, Florida, so I know everyone's going to shoot us because it is great here. I can't complain at all compared to the rest of the country. It has been phenomenal. I know I had my parents visiting, and it was actually rather chilly some days, and they didn't understand what we meant by chilly until they got here. But I will have to say that the Midwest is having some awful snow. So yeah. Let me go ahead and reiterate, and then we're going to jump into our topic here, you guys. This is long enough that I'm going to let it go on for people to populate in here. So this is our Monday Caregiver Check-In. So, hey, Christina, glad to have you back in here. Savannah says it's her first time in here, too. We just had below 30 wind chill, then 54 on Sunday, 24 today, and back down tomorrow. Oh, no, below zero for Janice. 66 degrees for Christina. Yep, that's what we're having. We're having pretty mild temperatures here in Orlando too. It's fantastic. So this is our Monday Caregiver Check-In. Some of you guys are return folks. We're so glad to see everyone again. Great to have so many first-time people on here. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your time. My cohort in crime, Margie, who hopefully will be back here, we take an hour out every Monday from our schedules to get together with other caregivers from around the country and world to just talk and to encourage each other, to push each other through another week so that we can be successful foster and adoptive parents. And we do have some of our Transfiguring Adoption volunteers and people around the world that are just concerned about caregivers that watch this because they want to learn more about us and see how they can help us better. So appreciate any of them that are watching right now. But this is your time to ask questions, to give advice or suggestions, and different things like that. So this is your time. Just break in, comment whenever you want to. But again, let me reiterate that today we are talking about parentification. There's Margie. Welcome back. We have a lot of first-time people on here.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about the parentification of children, and what I mean by that is when you have a home, you have foster adoptive kids coming into a home, and the older one has had to be the parent. So
they've become kind of parentified.
They are parentified. And we actually had someone after our last caregiver check-in ask us about this, and they wanted us to kind of hone in on that and talk about it and deal with it. So, of course, that's not the way we do things at the caregiver check-in. We throw it out to the community to talk about and give advice and discuss it. And we're going to talk about your comments on here so that we can help this person that was talking about it. Now, can we give any details about the person that chimed in on this, or do we need to keep it general?
Well, I think we're going to talk about it in general. In this case, it was actually not in a home. It was someone who was interning in the field and had a couple children who are in foster care in their office or somewhere. They were working with the kids, and the younger one called the older one mama. And the intern didn't know how to handle it. But we've seen lots of variations of that. So I think in general, we want to talk about it as a general topic.
So we have quite a few people that are logging on here. Again, thank you so much, you guys, for logging on here. If you can go ahead and share on your social media that you're watching this, because it'll allow other people to join in and we'll get more conversation going. Can I see by the emoji icons, I guess, can you give a laugh emoji if you've never heard of a child calling another child, like looking up to another child as the parent, or looking at them as the parent? And can you give a thumbs up emoji, like just hit the tar out of the thumbs up emoji if you've ever had a child in your home, or you've seen another foster adoptive child who's been parentified, where they are acting as the parent, or they've had to be the parent. I'm kind of curious how many folks that I'm curious what the gamut is here of experience. We've definitely experienced that, right?
I don't think we've had siblings that come into our home who didn't have this to some degree.
Right. So what does it look like when we've seen it? Ooh, I'm seeing the thumbs up emojis
I've only
everywhere.
seen thumbs up, so.
Yeah, I know. It's going, like, it's all over the place. Yeah, so what does it look like? I'd love to hear what other people, what are some of the, I guess, not the symptoms, but what are the situations? What do you see happening in your homes? Especially, this is someone that's not necessarily a parent that asks this, but they are someone that works with foster and adoptive kiddos. And so I think it'd be good just for even new foster adoptive parents that are watching this live or after the fact, like, what does this look like even? Mm-hmm. Like, what's something that you've noticed, Margie? Hey, Dusty.
Let's see. We've had one where there was a teenage child and then kind of a younger elementary age child, and the older child actually would start to intervene if the younger child went into a home and started to connect to the caregiver and trust the caregiver. And the older child would actually kind of, I don't know how to explain it, like kind of put something in between to let that not happen, to drive a wedge kind of between the younger child starting to trust the caregivers and to attach or anything like that. We've also seen just a lot of bossiness, a lot of the older kids telling the younger ones what to do.
Okay, and we have Wendy. I'll bust in here. Hey, by the way, well, good to see Wendy again.
Yeah.
And she says, had an older sibling who would come for weekend sibling visits. She would try to tell my two placement boys, her biological brothers. I said, I guess she would try to tell them how to do things. And she said, Wendy said, absolutely not. I'm the adult and I will handle it. You just get to be the sister at my house, which is a great way, I think, of like just telling them you get to have fun and be a kid. Mm-hmm. Dusty says, huge thanks to Margie, by the way, who showed compassion to me during a stressful moment last week. Fantastic. Thanks, Dusty. Jennifer, who I believe Jennifer said this is her first time on here. She's never had to deal with this personally because her age range is only birth through 3 years, but we have a toddler who calls every male daddy. Oh, that's another one too.
We've seen that a lot too.
And that one's kind of like, I think, dangerous too, because the kiddos tend to go with anyone. Mm-hmm. They don't restrict themselves to everyone's a safe adult in their eyes, so they just go to everyone.
Yeah. I will say that I have seen there is some part of development that even a child who's in a birth home can go through some of that, calling every male daddy or every female mommy, just as they're getting things straightened out. But it usually doesn't last long. They tend to know kind of. But yeah, that is kind of, it causes a lot of stranger danger when every male is a dad and every female is a mom when they're jumping around from home to home.
Christina right here.
So Christina says, we have had this happen a lot. We typically stop the behavior and say, oh, let me do that. It's my job as a parent. And I think, what we've handled it different ways. I know I have heard some professionals say that there's a kind of fine line, especially in the beginning, when a child has kind of lost all control and they're thrown into everything is new, everything is different, all their routines, everything is gone. To not totally take that or to not shame them for it,
right.
but kind of ease them into, and sometimes I think it's a lot in our wording. There's differences in our wording. I know we got to a point with our kids who've been adopted where we have little cues. So we had a cue that's kind of just us saying, stand down, Dad, or stand down, Mom, to the kid. And the kid, like, that's just their cue to go, oh, yeah, I'm not the dad, or oh, yeah, I'm not the mom. But that wouldn't necessarily be the right way to handle it with a brand new child. But a lot would depend on age. In the situation where I was talking about with the teenager and the very young child, in that case, we actually had some therapists and caseworkers kind of help intervene and say, kind of sit her down and go, in a couple years, you're going to age out, or if you return home, you're going to graduate and maybe move away. And this child still has to learn how to trust safe adults and figure out who's safe and attach to them and learn to take direction from them and learn to listen to them, because that's still going to be their job to keep her safe when you're gone. And so it was kind of helping the teenager see that she was actually kind of impairing development of the younger child.
Well, and Christina, I liked what she said. She said she jokingly will ask kids ask them where their parent license is at. I love that. Like, especially for younger kids, I would totally do that. It'd be like, let me see the parent license. Where is it? No, don't have it. You're out of bounds.
Well, and everything that we can do to stay kind of playful in our interaction helps things so much.
Right. And I think we have to remember, okay, so let me see some emojis again here if you agree or disagree. So again, we're going to do the laugh emoji if you disagree with me, and we're going to do the thumbs up emoji if you agree with me. But I think this has to do a lot with our children have had to be in survival. Like, they've had to survive, and this is how they've survived, is being the parent, because someone had to be the parent on duty. And so pulling that away from them is kind of is more trauma.
Yeah.
Because so it's like taking their oxygen away.
Dusty says, so kids had to survive sometimes by raising siblings. Celebrate that. Celebrate them wanting to help. And so Wendy's also saying that one of the kids was trying to help. Celebrate them wanting to help and give them slow transitions to help curb behavior. Totally just said that. Yeah.
No, and it's I've even heard, I mean, maybe you already said this, but I think I've heard other people say that with parentification, like when you have a child into your home, just like you won't ask them to do chores right away.
Yeah.
And different things like that. It's like you maybe like the first week is, okay, I'm going to let you tell your little baby brother what to do this week. But as we continue into next week, it's going to be more my job now. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think
the focus is not on you're doing something wrong. The focus is on now you get to enjoy being a child.
Right.
Like, you get to have fun and play. Let me worry about this stuff.
Right, exactly. Okay, did we miss this one?
I kind of talked about it, but not really.
Okay.
So Wendy said she would have sibling twins, a boy 9, 12, and sister 15 all at the same time, plus a 2-year-old non-biological child all at one time. And so she's a single mom. So now boys are 13 to 15 and the baby is 4. So she's thinking that sister was just trying to help. And again, there's that fine line of like helping them get to be a kid, but at the same time, like, those are skills that they need. And sometimes you do need help. Right.
Well, yeah. And you sometimes, especially when they first come into the house, right? Because you don't know, like, since that kid the older child has had to be the parent, they a lot of times know the favorite foods or know how to get the baby to eat or get the baby to sleep or get like they know all that because they've had to take care of them. So yeah, you need to like, and I think that builds some rapport and some trust and like, okay, well, we're going to do it. Like, well, let's get them to sleep like you would get them to sleep. And then, okay, we got it from here now. Like, seriously, we're good.
Dusty says it absolutely takes away their control and it is easy to lose patience with it, but we have to give them a chance to acclimate on their terms and get them a plant that they can care for. You can't take away a role without replacing it. And these kids don't know how to be kids. What does that look like? It depends on the age and the child. Yeah, so if you just say, don't be the parent, and I was just thinking about this, you know, don't be the parent anymore, well then what do I do? Like, you know, so many times our kids come to us like not knowing how to play or be a kid. Right. You know, I joke that, you know, the youngest child that ever came to us as a toddler didn't know how to play with toy cars. And we kind of think, you know, that's like an innate thing. They go beep, beep, zoom, zoom, right, and you drive them around. But if you've never seen a toy car be played with, like, it's like, oh, what in the world is this? Like, chuck that away. I know what to do with the pen or the belt buckle or something like that.
Yeah, it's totally true. And I think, so I guess, okay, so part 2 maybe of this would be then, so the person that asked this question then also said that the younger, let's look at the younger sibling, because the younger sibling is looking at that older child as being the parent. Mm-hmm. So they're going to listen to that. When that older kiddo says jump, they're going to jump and not jump when you say jump, because it's not just because the older child's listening or not listening. So what does that look like? What does it look like for...
We have a whole bunch of comments. So Christina says, I think age is everything. When it's little itty bitty ones, like 3 or 4, parenting a 1-year-old is very different than a 16-year-old parenting a 4 or 5-year-old. Absolutely. It's a lot different when there's only a couple years difference between the kids. Dusty says, or Christina, I had toddlers and 3-year-old could completely care for her 2-year sister. Yeah, and this particular situation where this intern came across this, where the younger child called the older child mama, I mean, these were all like preschool age kids. Maybe the oldest might have been like 5, I think, from the way I was taking the story.
Okay.
So they were still small and they were still close to the same age. Wendy says, well, and now that girl is 17 and just wants to get pregnant and have a baby. Yikes. Dusty says the younger sister depends on the older sibling because they were the only reliable security.
Right. So my thing is I think that's the second part of the situation is it's one thing, it's only half the situation to take a look at the needs that the older child has for the control and to be the parent, and they're wanting to protect and they're in survival mode. But that younger child is in survival mode just as much, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're depending on the older child for security.
Because they learned that the adults were not safe or they weren't consistent. Maybe they didn't feed them or they didn't take care of them. So adults are not reliable, but this older sibling is. So if you take away the older sibling, then that younger child's like, what do I do?
Right. So that's my thing is the second half of this is what do you do with that younger child? Like when they call the older child mama, I mean, what I'm hearing from you guys talking, and give me hit that thumb up emoji if I'm hearing it right. What I'm hearing is let it go maybe the first week or so. And yeah, okay, their mama, whatever, like we'll handle this event. We got bigger fish to fry right now. We're getting everyone adjusted. Is that right? Like, am I right in thinking that's the first step is just let it roll off your back? Mm-hmm. Thumbs up emoji if that's right.
So Dusty says it is a slow process to redefine the roles. It took years to create it. And of course the 17-year-old wants a baby. Babies love you unconditionally. Yeah. And Wendy says very true, because it is. She's learned that from the younger sibling, and and she's learned this role of parenting at a very young
Patty.
age.
Hey everyone, Patty's on here. Glad that Patty's here. Patty's one of our amazing volunteers. As I saw, Jen was on here too. Jen is one of our amazing volunteers, and they both are really, really good in the industry too. Like they
work in the field.
They work in the field, and they're also our volunteers. So I'm so glad that both of them are on here.
Okay, so Jennifer is asking, in my case, any suggestions on how to get our toddler foster daughter to know every male is not a safe daddy per se?
You want to reiterate that maybe?
Hold on.
Oh, time out for a
drink. Need a drink. Yeah, so how do you help a toddler, basically kind of, it's like the stranger danger thing. You're helping them understand that not every male is a safe dad to go to.
Yeah, so how, like, we've had that situation happen before too, like, where we had actually our son would want to go to every man and call him daddy, and we had to watch and make sure that he did not go home with other men. And luckily we were in a small town and we usually knew everyone around us, so that worked out pretty well. But what is your advice, everyone, for how do you work with a child that first comes into your home?
Okay, hold on. We got a lot of comments to go back to.
Okay.
So Dusty says, okay, so I have to disagree for once. You can't decide on the time frames. It is not your choice when they move into new roles if they have had years of living this role. Kids can be molded over time with patience and compassion. Yeah, every kid is different, and it's not like a time frame thing.
Right.
You kind of said like a couple weeks. Sometimes he just talks. Wendy, absolutely, slowly get that trust, then gradually take more control over that sibling's role as the parent. And Dusty says to Jennifer's question, first celebrate that your child is able to feel safe with adults, then start teaching stranger danger. And Dusty says there are Stranger Danger Berenstein Bears books. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of, like if there are any good books. I was racking my brain for any good Stranger Danger books.
Well, and let's go back to why our kids are feeling this way too. Like why are they able to go to any adult and feel like they can go with them or call them dad? I mean, because in most of our heads, mom or dad means someone that's going to take care of me. It's safety. It's someone. It's not just any old person on the side of the street. But our kids don't know this.
Mm-hmm. Especially if they've had several caregivers, and not even several caregivers, but just, say they went into care as an infant and they went to these strangers, and then strangers are transporting them, or they're going to different professionals who are caring for them in some way. So there's not this kind of real defined role of mom and dad.
Right.
Because it can kind of just be anybody.
And for some kids, it might just be the nice lady that gives me food in the morning, or it's the nice lady that's like it's any nice lady or nice man that smiles at me and stuff like that.
Hey, Logan. Yeah, Dusty says because they have no stable figure all the times. Christina says, with one of our littles who wanted to go to every man and sit in their lap, we had to redirect and say things like, oh, you want to sit on mommy's lap or daddy's. It made for some awkward moments of having to say no to kids in front of others, especially friends. It took a lot of education, took lots of educating others. And I know we did that. We had to do that with not even toddlers, like older kids. Didn't understand kind of.
And I will have to say that if we've never had younger kids again that we fostered as young as when we first started, I will have to say that if we had it to do over again, we didn't have the advice that you should basically cocoon yourself, and that's completely stay inside the home and you're just bonding with the kids for a while.
Well, and not necessarily just staying inside the home, but a lot of like kind of doing that redirecting of you come to mom or dad for sitting in laps or hugs or kind of that affection and kind of keeping.
Well, and it's educating the foster adoptive grandparents on, okay, like for this period season in our life, if they ask you for a hug, or if they want to sit on your lap, we need you to redirect them and say, why don't you go sit on mom's lap, or why don't you go sit on dad's lap, or why don't you go give mom and dad a hug if you're scared, and just so that they're learning good things come from my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm. So Dusty says, how do you teach bio kids to be safe? Same concept. And Jennifer says, we are totally grateful she feels safe, but she has been passed around so much. Any adult that she is around for longer than an hour or so, she would adjust to having to be with. Christina says, talking about their Bible or personal space helps some too. Dusty says, Jennifer, that sucks. I am so sorry. I would definitely look into videos and books on stranger danger. Jennifer says, well, I think our bio kids have been with us since birth, so they're not comfortable around strangers. Christine says, bubble, not Bible. Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because some of that is too, like that personal bubble space. There's some overlap in that with, like,
gosh, and it's harder when you're talking, because I keep thinking of ideas, but my ideas aren't for toddlers or younger. Like, because there's a great activity that you can do with like even kindergartners or older, where you can take hula hoops, and that's your bubble space, and no one is allowed inside your bubble space. But then you can take the hula hoop and you can put it this way, so you can invite people to get closer to you, or you can put the hula hoop out further, so people are further away from you. And then you can actually get more advanced with it, where if there's a like you have like red hula hoops, and then someone else has blue hula hoops, and if there's a backpack or toys on the floor, you put your color of hula hoop around those toys, and that means the person with blue hula hoops needs permission to go toward those toys to get to them, because that's your personal space, that's your personal things.
So Wendy says, my 4-year-old says hello to everyone in Walmart and will carry on a conversation with strangers, but then won't speak to people who know her.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that.
I would have to say it's normal.
Dusty, it's
abnormally normal.
It's normal for the situation.
Yeah.
Dusty says, so my son had Asperger's. Everyone was his friend. I used a lot of bear in the big house. If the person was holding the bear, they were safe. So if the bear was an easy and relatable, tangible thing that he could identify with. So bear safe is another good method.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Dusty always has fun ideas. But yeah, I think it's, gosh, I think it's just part of the training too. I think it's just, it's like what we've been talking about with the parentification too, it's just going to take time for them to understand and get that, because it's just a world that they don't know. Like, they don't understand that. They don't get that, they don't get these concepts.
Well, and especially if the child is still in foster care, it's so confusing, because at the same time that you're trying to teach them about stranger danger, I know we were doing, when our kids were young, anywhere from early toddlerhood to, elementary school, even middle school a little bit, we had where we're telling them about stranger danger, but at the same time, like, there's a new transporter, there's a new caseworker, and they're just going with these strangers all the time. The toddler goes to daycare, and those are kind of strangers who are taking care of them. And then one transporter comes to go visit mom, another transporter comes to take to dad, and then there's a new caseworker, and then another new caseworker. And so at the same time you're trying to teach about strangers, there's constantly strangers coming in and out of their life that they're supposed to go with or trust.
And then you go on a trip somewhere, and they want to go up to the nice 80-year-old man that like wants to shake their hand or give them a high five, and you're like, no, yeah. That's a stranger.
Well, so I think this makes sense. Like, that would have been really helpful, the bear thing, because it's something he could physically touch and hold, and like Dusty says, intangible ideas are hard for young kids to grasp. A bear is easy to relate to, so I control who got the bear. So, the child knows we're safe. We give the bear to save people. So there's a transporter, and we know this person is safe.
I really
so
do like that idea. Like, I'm just trying to think how, like, I think I really like, Dusty, I'm totally thinking of like a transfiguring adoption, like doing an owl or something like that with instructions on that. I really like that because I'm thinking for our little guy that it would just have made so much more sense if I could have gone to daycare and I could have said, here, give the owl, and then they could have given the owl to the transporter or something like that.
Yeah, so Wendy says, my boys came to me in preteens and they are worse than the 4-year-old. They would walk up to a car on the side of the road and talk to them. I tried to teach them not everyone is nice and kind. Yeah, we had preteens, same thing. We had one preteen that was crawling, like we were in downtown Chicago, and the preteen was crawling in people's laps at the bus stop, in the public, on the side of the street. And we were young at this.
Yeah,
kind
so
of like mortified. Like,
yeah, this was like no, and I think that's even with preteens. I think that can be scarier too, because especially when you get into like around your home and stuff like that, you're familiar with your home, you're familiar with your neighborhood and the people around. So you kind of like you can go into action quick and you get things and you know things. But then if you go on a trip or something like what we were talking about, like we went. So at the time we were from a rural area. Which both of us are quite adept in city life. We've lived in cities before we went from cities to rural life. And then you grew up around Chicago. So, I mean, no big deal for you, except we didn't have the whole kid aspect. So it was kind of scary for us because we had all of a sudden these kids that were just like, and we're like, bah, downtown Chicago, you guys, you can't do that. You can't just stay with us and don't. It was scary times.
Okay, having problems scrolling. Dusty says she had to master creativity with her kiddos. You are very creative. You're great.
Here, let me see this.
So Jen, there we go. Let's see that a little better.
Yeah,
that one's not refreshed.
Yeah,
okay, there we go. So Jen says, definitely not just a little thing. I have a 12-year-old I work with who makes friends with every single person we meet, from the cashier at McDonald's to anyone in line at the gas station. And I think, a couple weeks ago we talked about, human trafficking.
Hey, Jen.
And so, a lot of times with those preteens, they have a little bit more, they might be walking to and from school. And so, they have naturally a little bit more of a boundary, in terms of, you have the baby in the crib to the baby gate to the house, to the backyard, to the front yard. Those boundaries get expanded. So a lot of times preteens already kind of have these expanded, their gates of boundaries. So if they're walking to and from school and they're not understanding stranger danger and they're talking to just anybody, that puts them at a higher likelihood to be trafficked or victimized in different ways.
Testy says, preteens are easy. Same bear. They're going to learn quick because they don't want to be embarrassed.
That's awesome. Wendy says, well, and they have severe cognitive delay. So if someone told them to hop in, I will take you home, they would. And Dusty says, definitely figure out a code word or bear and focus on that. Give them a relatable thing. My kids have a code word even as teens. Wendy says, Dusty, you're awesome, because Dusty is awesome.
Okay. And for everyone that's joining in later on here, what we're talking about is right now we're talking about helping, especially younger kids like toddlers. Like, how do you help them understand who are safe people, who are not safe people, and not just to go with everyone or call everyone dad or mom. The other overarching thing that we're talking about, someone asked us about before we started this episode, was how do you deal with the parentification of children, meaning an older child usually has had to be the parent, and the younger siblings look to that older child as the parent. How do you deal with that whole phenomenon as you're trying to make them feel safe and be kids again? Lots and lots of wine. Self-medication. Is that what you're saying? Very funny. So yeah, like, I'll throw this back out to you guys. So I forget who even had the question. Does that help you guys? Like, does that give you some ideas of how to handle that? Does anyone else have any more new ideas or questions to throw out at that topic of how the whole stranger danger thing, I guess, with a toddler? That is a real thing because
even like we're saying, like with preteens and older kids even.
I think that's an important topic to talk about. I'm glad you brought it up because I think there are going to be a lot of new foster adoptive parents that are watching this, and that's something that we take for granted in those of us that grew up in close to normal houses where we just like I know I was taught stranger danger and you were taught stranger, and I mean we just would have gotten that and our parents wouldn't have had to worry about it so much. So this is something that you do have to, it's not normal.
Yeah. Well, even, I mean, it's not something that just foster and adoptive families deal with. Because I know in our house, it was a big problem because my younger brother, when he first started, my parents both come from very large families. And so as an infant, he was passed around a lot. So as a young child, he was very friendly and outgoing, would talk to everybody. But he was getting ready to go into kindergarten, and my parents were trying to teach them stranger danger. So they showed him a movie to show him that, and it was one with a happy ending and everything turned out well, but there was a situation where there was a stranger who was dangerous and a child was kidnapped or something, but went home. But it scared him so much that he didn't like want to go to, like his kindergarten teacher was then a stranger who he wouldn't interact with. So.
Okay, this is kind of a break from what we're talking about. But so Dusty said that we're struggling with the know-it-all stuff in their house. Like they want, like basically, like Dusty says, she wants to make them do book reports because they're trying to out-know her. So interesting thing is we've had kiddos obviously in our house, and we've had our fair share of therapists and counselors that we've had to go to. And what we've been told is a lot of times is that's a way for so okay, these kids, foster adoptive kiddos, like possibly could be because of their past and they're trying to feel like I'm worth something all the time. So everything is constantly I'm worth something. Okay, I gave myself a point because I'm worth something. Like if someone got more pee, they hate peas, but someone else got more peas on their plate than I got. And it's not like it was an intentional thing. It's like, oh, that's a point against me because I didn't get as much food.
So they're constantly like
keeping score of things. Yeah. So the know-it-all thing sometimes, we've been told in counseling sessions, is a way to be like, oh, I knew that. That's a point for me. I'm worth something now. Like, oh, point for me. I knew that. Like,
and the thing is, there's this thing where, if you've been nurtured and everything, you come to understand that you can make a mistake or be wrong and you're still lovable. Like, what was that? Like, they would talk about fallible versus foible. Like, there's that difference between I can make mistakes, but I'm still okay, or I am a mistake. Like, I can't make any mistakes, or I am a mistake.
Right.
So it's very internalized. So there's this constant, like, I'm right, so I can, I'm still lovable, I'm good. I'm lovable, I'm good, I'm right. If I'm wrong once, I'm done.
Right.
I'm not okay.
And so, yeah, so I'm trying to think but we actually have, like, I have to be in the situation for it to, like, we have funny, like, phrases that we'll say that kind of shut the know-it-all stuff down. I can't think of any at the moment.
Dusty was almost legit kidnapped as a child, so this is a touchy subject. I am uber cautious.
What? I missed something.
So we're the whole stranger danger thing. She said it's a very touchy subject for her because she was almost legit kidnapped. Yeah, Julie says we use families stick together and save your hugs for your mommy. That's really good. And we had some amazing counselors, even like in-home counselors, who would kind of like stop,
I loved it when they did that.
Kids who just wanted to like go up and hug them and they're like, oh, wait, are we family? No, okay, fist bump.
See, I think really some of that
it was really effective to come from somebody else and not just us telling them all the time.
See, I think, and if any of you guys have, so we have volunteers that want to help foster and adoptive families out, and they're working with foster agencies around the nation and different things like that. Is that something that we should be teaching our ELF squads though? Like as helping to educate the public, like saving hugs for mommy? That could almost be a campaign. Like, cause I loved it when, like, I almost get tired of educating people, and then they want to know why they can't give my kid a hug and think I'm being evil. And I'm like, well,
like they barely know you.
They barely know you, and they want to hug everyone. Like, that needs to mean something.
Yeah. Dusty says there's not enough wine for the current teen drama in my house right now. I wonder if I shouldn't give rewards for not knowing. Like, here's $1 if you actually have to look up facts. That's awesome. We have a couple right now that have kind of been in this thing of constant bickering back and forth, and they'll argue with, and half the time they're both wrong and they have no idea what they're talking about, but they just have to just keep going with it. So she says she has to come up with a creative way to celebrate flaws. I've like lost the ability to shop before it.
You lost the ability to talk. I really wish I could think with Dusty's thing with the whole know-it-all thing. I wish because we do.
I know that we have some quippy,
phrases
like jokey things to just
that like totally
get
diffuse
them out
it.
of it.
And it's just like stuff like, "Oh, aren't you guys cute? Trying to be the best encyclopedia," like and stuff like that. And it's just like, and then they just kind of realize, oh, okay, well, never. Like I don't know. Like I can't think of anything right now. It's like tell a funny joke, and I can't think of anything. Face in Louisville has a whole campaign for that.
I've lost.
Like, yeah, I've totally lost it. I've totally lost the stream of thoughts, you guys. It's all running together. I think she was talking about with our volunteers. I do get tired of teaching people though. Like because I want to tell everyone, like, educate people that, you know, the boundaries and, you know, say like what they were saying, save hugs for mommy. I love that phrase. I think that's a great, like, I'm gonna steal that.
Well, and there's like this kind of push, you know, between, like, there's a lot of people that, you know, hug so-and-so, hug, you know, you need to hug people. And when kids don't want to hug, they sometimes are forced to.
Right.
You know, right. There really does need to be more education around that. Like, kids should know that they have their boundaries and they get to decide that, you know, and not being forced. Face It is for your no-touch campaign.
Okay, that's really cool. Yeah, and I think Jennifer said something about, yes, educate. I just get tired of educating. You know, after a while, like, you just feel like you're educating everyone. I wish we could do, and that's part of Transfiguring Adoption, is to help with our volunteer groups, is to help educate the public so that as foster adoptive caregivers, more people get what we're going through, so you guys don't have to educate them. But unfortunately, until we get ginormous.
Yeah, like Julie says, my body, my choice.
Absolutely, my body, my choice. Yeah. I love this. I'm just going to let everyone else talk. You guys just go talk amongst yourselves. I'm getting into it. No, I really think I'm going to steal that, though. Like, like I see, like, we have, like, our new clothing lines and stuff like that online. Like, I totally think I'm going to design something that says, I saved my hugs for mommy. Ooh, I don't know how I'd do that.
Well, then it gets tricky, because if the child's still in care, then you've got all kinds of...
I'll figure something out. I still like that, though. I like that.
We need an open bar for the educational sessions.
Hey, Johanna.
So she said, it's so interesting. We are new foster parents and have been doing respite care for almost a year. We also have 5 bio kids and have struggled even with them and safe touch. We would say hug and let go, basically to stop them from unintentionally gripping people, but asking if people are family is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with some in our house, like, we have had to say, okay, like, you've gone past that. Like, it's no longer just a hug. You know, you hug and release. If you're still holding on, it starts to get weird or creepy or inappropriate, or there's just like there's lines that have been crossed after.
Yeah, and I think the key is to say, again, you have to have a great sense of humor about you, but at the same time be blunt. Be like, oh, okay, you've crossed into creepy now. Like, yeah. So it needs to be kind of said funny, but at the same time it was blunt, where I'm like saying, okay, you're no longer hugging for love or for concern or kindness. It's just plain creepy now.
Yeah. Jen says, with my 12-year-old, we've gotten to a point where she asks, is it okay to give you a hug? I think just the fact that her counselor has taught her to ask before hugging makes her consider who she actually wants to hug. Yeah. So it works both ways, helping them understand personal boundaries.
And I know other counselors and different things too. Like if you're going to hug and you're not family members, you're just like friends or whatever, it's like the kids want to come on with a frontal hug and you're like, nope, not your family, side hug.
So Wendy says, my 4-year-old is my blessing from God. She was straight from the NICU. I allow her to hug who she wants, but knows them. Her teachers love her and it's okay. I share her sweet face and smile every single day. She has CP and epilepsy. Sing songs, awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
I always say they're being a boa constrictor. Boa constrictors are not huggers. I love that.
No, constrictors are not huggers. Okay, now you're just killing
that
them.
Should be a shirt.
Okay, yeah, that's too inside. Okay, if you guys make it an insider joke and this caregiver check-in gets big enough, I will make it into a t-shirt. But you guys have got to make it into an inside joke. Otherwise, not enough people are going to get it. I like it, though. I love that. No, like, seriously, there is a lot of awkward. Well, and I even know, like, just even different boundaries that we have at our home. Like, people don't share blankets.
Yeah.
In our house. And just, like, keeping things very separate. And definitely not with anyone. Like, even grandma and grandpa can't share blankets. Or, like grandma and grandpa just came here to visit for 3 weeks at our house. And they didn't share blankets or anything with anyone.
With the kids.
Yeah, with the kids. Like, well, with us either. That would have been awkward. That's just creepy. See, that could be a thing. We should just make a shirt that says awkward. It could be our awkward line.
That's just creepy. That's actually been
creepy.
used several times around here. So the boa constrictor thing is my go-to for years. Even as a teacher, it was yet another visual. Yes, it is. It's something that's like abstract, like when is it no longer a hug, but you're giving them something visual going, boa constrictor.
Okay, so I was an art major in college, and there was this art piece that someone did where you sat in a chair, like an overstuffed chair, and you were given the controller and you pushed the button and it would slowly start to constrict you to give you a hug, and you got to decide when to stop. But then the other flip side of it is that someone else was given the controller after that, and they could decide when it was tight enough for you.
Okay, so lots of good thoughts here. Wendy, there's a little girl in her class who always hugs. My child pushes her away and yells no in her face. Yeah, so there's this, like, I could see people getting mad at the child for saying no. Dusty says, blankets are sacred in my house. Yes, we have fights over blankets in this house often. Or who got the certain blanket that everybody wants.
Even seating spots are sacred in this house. I'll never
Logan,
get that.
is it a danger to go too far the opposite direction? Sorry, it's like going up. And cause kids to be isolated and introverted because of past trauma. Where is the normal line? Is it different for each child, family, etc.? Christina says, instead of an easy button, we need awkward buttons for our kids. And Dusty replying to Logan is that depends on the child, but you can slowly set limits and define those lines.
Right.
Yeah, I think with anything in life, there's that kind of line of too far the other direction. You know, there's always got to be a balance. And it's not always easy to find. Like the situation with my brother, he did become extremely shy and introverted and wouldn't talk to his kindergarten teacher because she was a stranger, even like halfway through the year. And my parents obviously weren't trying to make that happen. They thought they were helping him. And in my case, the movie did help me. I could see that, yes, there are good people and there are bad people, and we learn who that is. And obviously you can talk to your kindergarten teacher, but my brother's little mind wasn't able to kind of tease out some of that.
Like, I think, so our kids have been in equine therapy, and I can just think of, like, when they're training the horses, like, there's just different levels. Like, so if you have a horse that is stubborn or they're set in their ways, you're going to train that horse differently than a horse that is ready to learn something new and compliant. Because obviously the one that's compliant and docile is ready to do and to learn things, where the one that's a little bit more hard-headed, like you have to really dig in your heels and you have to do a little bit more, like you have to put in some pretty like big boundaries. Otherwise that horse is so strong-willed it's going to run all over you.
Dusty says, and the more visual you can be with explanations, the better it is. Kevin Henkes has some amazing mouse books on a lot of subjects, so he was always a go-to. Yeah, visuals. I mean, I used a visual this morning, or this afternoon, even with a child to kind of show in another way a situation of some fine lines between, like, in a situation, getting the help that's needed without, like, freaking out, and yeah, a visual was used and it was good.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like with what we do with Transfiguring Adoption, we believe so much in the power of getting books, book reviews out on the website, and movie reviews from our sister group called Adoption at the Movies. Just because I think the visuals do help you to have better conversations, and they just make more of an impact, right?
Yeah.
And half the work's done for you if you can get a book or a movie, like, and make the connection there.
Yeah.
So.
And like Wendy says, just a certain word or a phrase can set a kid off due to the past trauma.
Hey guys.
You don't always know what that is.
I am going to give us a warning here. We are getting to about 4 minutes to 9 o'clock, which we do need to shut things down here because I want to respect everyone's time. I know we're having a lot of fun here. Go ahead, and I would love to hear everyone's last comments. I would love to hear questions. I would really love to hear ideas that anyone wants to talk about for next week. If you have suggestions of things that you want talked about. I know Wendy's like, no! I know, we're just getting rolling and now we got to stop. We do keep watching this, and everyone, I think everyone else kind of chimes in too, like, throughout the week. So if you guys want to keep commenting on here, we do keep watching it. This is something that we keep doing.
It does get archived on our YouTube as well. And so people do, I mean, sometimes several months later, look back at stuff. So
I did want to tell people just some things going on with Transfiguring Adoption right now. We are just starting our 3rd annual Sweet Dreams Nightlight Drive. So we're asking anyone and everyone to help us spread the word about that nightlight drive. We have different volunteer groups in different states that are setting up local drop-off places for nightlights, and these are to help. These are going to be donated to foster care agencies for foster parents, so that when they get a new placement into their home, that child can have felt safety, because when they're in a stranger's home. And
felt safety, just because that's words that aren't always tossed around, you know, but it's just that idea of we can tell them that they're safe. They don't necessarily feel safe because adults hurt me, adults lie to me, bad things happen in the dark. But helping them feel safe by being able to see when something goes bump in the night, hey, I really am safe. You know, they still have that control, and they still have, they're able to see it for themselves because they don't trust you yet.
Dusty was asking where to send the night lights. So let me go ahead. I'm going to get that link up here, Dusty, so that you can see where to send those. But we are doing it to wage war on nighttime terrors in foster kiddos.
You should have, the Kentucky squad hasn't really been doing a lot, but you do have a local squad leader.
Right, so, John Salisbury.
Yeah.
I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Should get a hold of him, and he should be able to help you out. Otherwise, I'm going to put the link up here for everyone else. That will have our address of where to send the nightlights. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that through the end of March, and we're going to be donating those to foster care agencies around the nation. We do this every year, and it has a great response from both the public who wants to help foster families, and it has a great response from foster families just saying that how much it helps their kids. It's just been phenomenal. The other thing I did want to share with everyone is we are working right now with our new people ask about t-shirts and different things like that all the time. If you go on our transfiguringadoption.com website, if you go to store, we have 2 new buttons on there. We have one that says custom-made items, which we're slowly populating, that you can get some cool custom-made items on. And then if you go all the way down to the bottom, we have one that says third-party print store, which has our full collection of custom-made items on there. But there's some really cool items. When we were joking about Save Hugs for Mommy, we have some other really cool designs on there. Like we have a cool collection called Self-Care Goals, which are really cool. We have some for men and women. We have all different like self-care images on them, like cheesecake, I know, for the ladies, and like I forget what some of the different things are. But there are dresses and t-shirts and all sorts of different things.
Wendy, we missed you too. I'm trying to kind of, one of the things that Dusty's wanting to talk about is how to tell kids that parents have gone through termination, so TPR. She's had to deal with that, and it, like she says, it sucked on every level. So that, Wendy, as far as, Wendy says, I wish our area would get involved. If you know anybody, Wendy, on our website, there are applications for what we call Elf Squad leaders. So if you know anybody, and they don't have to be foster or adoptive parents, we do the training and all that kind of stuff. It just needs to be somebody who wants to help
and
with foster
actually,
care and adoption.
Jen Ellers that kind of popped out. I don't know if she's still on here or not. I can't see.
Yeah, Jen Ellers, who's been around in here, she's actually the volunteer leader over all the volunteers. And so we're always looking to get local squads started. So if you know somebody in your local area, we'll get them rolling and we'll get a squad started.
Yeah, so definitely look at the Sweet Dreams Nightlight Drive. Go ahead and take a look at our store. And not even necessarily maybe you buy something, but tell your friends and family. That is how we help to fund our different programs and different things like that. I know that like we have some people that say, well, what are you spending money on? Well, the website takes money to stay on. There are different things that go with having Facebook Live that take money to stay on. And we want to keep this around because this is really helpful for us. I hope you guys think that if this is helpful for you guys, we'd love to hear about that too. If you could just comment or leave a review on our Facebook page, that always helps us to go to donors and say, hey, look, we have foster adoptive parents that say that this is making a difference.
Yeah, and the more we can get corporate sponsors or grants and that kind of thing, the more we can do. You know, we've done first foster placement, survival kits for families and different things like that. The more we can get funding, the more we can get tangible resources into the hands of foster and adoptive families, not just our website stuff. So
thanks for the hearts, you guys. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for being on here. Let me tell you what, you guys, I know we say this every week, but I want you guys to own this. I want you guys to really make this you. I know that this week you might feel like you're failing as a foster or adoptive parent or a professional or wherever you're coming from in this journey. You might feel like you're failing. But let me tell you what, as someone that is walking the journey with you and then has been through it for a while, I can tell you that you're making a bigger difference and impact than what you think you are. You're doing an amazing job that a lot of people would not even touch or dare to do. So thank you so much for what you do. You are making a difference. Thank you for hanging in there, and thank you for joining us this week to encourage us and to help us keep going. We hope that we're helping to do the same thing for you. I'm Darren Fink. This is Margie Fink. We hope we're helping you to nurture and grow your foster or adoptive family. Thanks, you guys. Love y'all. Talk to you later.